Spotlight on Education. I'm Dr. John Kopko, Superintendent of the East Brunswick Public Schools, and your host for the program. Today my special guest is Mr. Charles King, our recently retired principal from East Brunswick High School, who has served the district with considerable distinction over the past 30 years. First as a social studies teacher, then as a department chairperson, then as supervisor of athletics, physical education and health, and obviously most recently as the principal of East Brunswick High School. Mr. King has also been designated as the second annual Partner in Excellence recipient, which is an award presented by the East Brunswick Education Foundation, and that'll be presented to Mr. King on March the 16th at their annual dinner dance. So congratulations for that award as well, Mr. King.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for being here. And we hope you could share with the audience, your perspective of the district and its history, and what was it like when you first came to East Brunswick?
Well, I arrived here as a reasonably young man, just back from Vietnam in 1966. And it was an exciting place. It was growing. There were still a few farms around. Matter of fact, quite a few farms, and the roads were still quite rural. And it was an innovative, progressive district, a district that wanted to get things done. And sometimes we went in the right roads, and sometimes we had to take a few detours. But I think that's what you have with a growing, innovative district. And as time progressed, building really took a rapid turn in East Brunswick, and Route 18 became the parking lot that it is at the present time, and the schools got larger, and schools were built, several elementary schools, and it seemed like at that time we would redistrict them every couple of years. And that was always a fun process to go through, even though personally I was kind of a bystander to that process, because the high school doesn't get redistricted when that does happen. But when I first came here in '66, to go back to that, we had some ninth graders at the high school. Matter of fact, I taught ninth graders American history the first year, United States history, the first year that I was here. There were some ninth graders at Hammarskjöld, and there were ninth graders at Churchill. So the ninth grade was located in 3 separate buildings that year. That lasted a year or so, and then the high school changed to 10 to 12 building, which it's been ever since then. But it was an exciting place. Every day brought something different and something new. And of course, we were going through superintendents at that time at a rapid, I guess everybody was though, at a rather rapid pace. Some of them got time for a couple of cups of coffee and had a disagreement with the board or whatever the case may be. And but I think that was good too, because there were a lot of good ideas that were brought in by those gentlemen at that time, and then kind of in the 70s things kind of settled down, and for the last 25 years we've had 2 superintendents, so that's a rather interesting change. But the district has changed, and for the better for the most part, I think.
And when you were in the social studies department, you were really the person who initiated the IPPL program, which is really right now nationally recognized. And when did you bring that to the district, and how has it changed as you've seen it?
Well, I became the department chairperson in, I think it was 2 years after I was here. I know I didn't have tenure at that time, which was kind of unusual, and I was rather proud of that. We began looking at the entire curriculum at that time in '68, '69, and into '70, and had a lot of help with Dolores Meyerhoff, who was a colleague of mine back those days. Matter of fact, her and I came to the district at the same time. And we were looking for a way to present the curriculum, and a curriculum for that matter, to present to the students which was more relevant to their ongoing process. and we experimented with a variety of ways of teaching an understanding and appreciation of the American system and the American process. And we were interested in putting students into real situations, lawyers' offices, the mayor's office, the judge's chambers, and those kind of things. It was almost like an intern program. And we became aware of a program that was, and I don't know exactly where it came out of, it was Washington or it was California or someplace. And Dolores and I spoke about it and presented it to the principal, Dr. Burnett at that time. And finally, in I think it was 71 or around 71, we introduced and we started formally to teach IPL. When I look at what goes on now with John Calamano and all of the people that are involved in the program up there, I just shake my head and say, I don't know if we should talk about what we did in the early 70s. It was innovative at that time, but what's going on there at the present time is incredible. It's learning as I think learning should take place. It is student-initiated learning. The teacher is not the focal point of the whole classroom. Yes, initially there's some of that, but basically the teacher comes out of that role, and the students take a greater responsibility for their own learning. And that may be a little idealistic when you take it over the broad spectrum, but I think that's what education really needs to be more of, and look what they have accomplished.
That's certainly, certainly a program that has lasted for such a long time, and I think has had such a positive impact upon so many students. And I think you're to be complimented, for bringing it here and having the vision to see it through, because it certainly is working so well. Let's talk a little about transitions. How did you make the transition really from social studies, then to health, physical education, and athletics, and then to principal of East Brunswick High School?
I seem to have evolved from several different starting points. It was very interesting, and I think that's what made my 30 years, as you mentioned, in East Brunswick exciting. I was able to be a teacher, a department chairperson, which itself was quite interesting at the time. And then to make the change from that to athletics or physical education and health, of which I had very little formal background or training. And I think there were a lot of people that questioned that when I got the job back in April of 1973. The first athletic director, Mr. Doyle, died suddenly of a heart attack in December of '92, and I was appointed after that. It took a lot of hard work, to be honest with you, that early stages of 73, 74, 75. The biggest part is to get the trust and the respect of the staff. Once you're able to show them that you know what you're talking about and that you can actually help them do a better job by providing them with the resources and the materials and the personnel or whatever that they need to work with, I think you're able to move forward and make some changes. We were able to do that. I had an advantage that we were very much involved during the first 5 years I was here in a variety of things. If you named a committee or with the Teachers Association or whatever, I was involved with that. And I think that helped me gain the confidence of the staff and for that matter for the central administration. I remember when I got the job, the superintendent said, well, you're going to have to change gears and you're going to be able to do this and do that and so forth. And I was very determined to prove that I was capable of doing that. So the years that I spent in athletics were very exciting. They were very rewarding. We went from different conferences. We formed what exists at the present time, the Greater Middlesex Conference, which is a combination of all the schools in the county. And talk about dealing with different egos, and everybody has their own little piece of turf. This district, well, we can't give up that. And we were dealing with superintendents and boards of education, and it was an interesting challenge. And with the state of New Jersey, the NGSIA, and we're able to, I was on their executive committee. That didn't hurt the process because they had a freeze of forming conferences. Nobody could change conferences. But during that freeze, the Greater Middlesex Conference was formed, made presentations at the state level. And so it was a very interesting ongoing process. And in 1988, I had the opportunity, I guess, no, it was an opportunity. It actually was quite an opportunity to be a principal of East Brunswick High School. The then principal, I believe, was on sabbatical or whatever, and so I had that opportunity. And at first I kind of said, did I make the right move here? Athletics was interesting and very good, very exciting to be involved in. And absolutely, looking back on it, it was the best thing that probably happened to me in all the years I was in East Brunswick. It was a challenge. You were dealing with an entirely different set of circumstances. It's kind of like the superintendent's job. They kind of come at you from all angles. The parents, the students, the staff, central administration, whoever else, they all seem to want a piece of what's going on, and of course they know more about anything that's happening there than you do. And so you kind of, once again, it's a question of gaining their confidence and maybe having a little bit of success, and I think we're able to do that. I mean, I'm very proud of the 7.5, 8 years that I spent as principal of East Brunswick High School, nationally recognized Blue Ribbon School. Red Book magazine recognized, they've had their secondary school program for 3 years, and we've been recognized, hopefully again, for the third time, one of the few schools in the nation to be recognized. And I think that's important because it says to the community that you have an outstanding school, and and what makes that school outstanding is the staff, and it's a very well trained, hard-working group that puts forth a maximum effort to get done what needs to be done. And as the principal, I think I felt anyway that my role was to set the tone. If people know what they're expected to do, they will do it in 99% of the cases. And I think that's what happened. I mean, I think when I came in, I felt that there was a little bit of laxity. Well, not really a sense of purpose. I mean, why are we here? Well, we were there, in my opinion, to achieve to the maximum that we were capable of. Now, every student is not going to get 1,600 on the SATs, and every student's not going to get an A+ in every course that they take. We understand that. So I think you set reasonable expectations for the students and for the staff, and we were fortunate enough that during that time, I believe anyway, that we did achieve at a very high level. And I'm sure that's going to continue. There's no doubt in my mind that things are in good hands, and that whatever progress was made will continue, and even at a higher level.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that you certainly were an extremely well-respected member of the Social Studies Department. And then to look at athletics and physical education, and you mentioned the Greater Middlesex Conference. The name Charles King is synonymous with the Greater Middlesex Conference, and I don't think, although maybe they do, many people realize that you were really the motivator behind the establishment of that conference, which right now stands as probably the greatest conference in the state of New Jersey. And then during your tenure as principal of East Brunswick High School, I think the name Charles King stood for East Brunswick High School as well, for the excellence in all areas, academics, athletics, and the arts, and for the national recognition that has been brought to that school, through your leadership.
Thank you.
And I'm sure during the time you've had some interesting experiences, and maybe some of them humorous. Maybe you could share some of those with our audience as well.
Well, there have been some interesting ones. One of the things that we tried to do when we went into the high school was to take some of the things we learned in athletics and translate those to the entire building. I mean, if you can run things smoothly in an athletic sense, I think you can run things efficiently and effectively in a broader sense. And we've had assemblies for athletes for 3 years. And well, you've attended many of them. And it's a time to pause and recognize the contributions that certain students have made to, at that point, the athletic program. So I said, well, this is fine, but we're going to take that and make it school-wide. And we're going to take any student that achieves in an academic arena, whether or not it's in a competition or it's in the National Merit Students or the Honor Roll, and we're going to recognize those. Well, I remember the first time we did that. And these students sheepishly, the students that received all A's made the Golden Honor Roll. They sheepishly paraded onto the stage like they were being led to the slaughter. And we pushed them and kind of forced them out onto the stage. Well, the next time it came time for an assembly to recognize the accomplishments of the outstanding students that we have, we forgot someone. And I thought the world came to an end. I mean, just 3 months before, we were forcing them onto the stage, and we made a mistake, and were able to correct it and get the person on the stage. But it was a complete role reversal, absolutely, completely changed. And I think that's what has happened. It's happened with music. We always have a musical part of the assembly of the program, whether or not it be a choral presentation or some with John Kish and a marching band or whatever it happens to be. And I think that's important. I have another one. I don't know if you want to get into that one, though. I remember there was a few years ago, there was a new superintendent, and we were going to Washington, and somehow we got on the wrong train. But I don't think we should get into that in any detail today.
Yeah, I remember that well. We wound up in Trenton rather than Washington. How about your most rewarding experiences?
Well, there certainly are a number of those. Probably the one that I remember the most is 2 years ago, I believe it was. We were there was an orchestra concert, and Gordon Tedeschi is the maestro of the high school orchestra, who does an outstanding job. And I'd gone to the concert. I think it was in March, or maybe it was April, I'm not sure. And I said, we have to put this on for the entire student body, because concerts are given in the evening, and they're fairly well attended, but the entire student body doesn't get an opportunity to see that, or at least a full auditorium full of students, because we can't get all the students in one place at one time, except outside in the stadium. So we decided to do that. And I was, first of all, Gordon was a little apprehensive. He didn't know if it was such a great idea, and I thought it was a tremendous idea. And then I began to get some second thoughts and said, are these guys going to, are these students going to throw bananas or lemons or whatever else, eggs or whatever else they might throw? And of course that doesn't happen at East Brunswick High School, but I mean, those kind of thoughts go through your mind. And lo and behold, the day comes and the orchestra assembly is put on. And Mr. Tedeschi's in his tux, and his students are all, as they are, outstanding, truly gifted students. And they begin to play, and I'm going, oh, are they going to be quiet, you know, and, which is the proper etiquette and so forth. They were so good. And I mean, just, you shook my bones, and, you know, you get that tingly feeling up and down your spine, and you kind of get tears in your eyes. They were so good that the entire audience of 800 students in that auditorium stood up and gave them a standing ovation. To me, that was such a moving experience that it's one that I will cherish and remember for a long, long time. Obviously, there are many others, you know, winning a big game or a championship. Actually, when I think of in athletics, getting the conference started was, I mean, I look at that, back at that with fond memories. Almost as much as the day that we were, as a matter of fact, you and I were in Washington and received the national award for excellence, and we had the flag, and, you know, I have a big picture of that. You're on one end of the flag, and I'm on the other end of that banner, and that was an extremely proud moment for myself, and hopefully we're able to translate some of that to the staff and the students in the community, because I mean, that's who that award belongs to. Certainly not to me. I was just fortunate to be able to be the front man in that situation, because everybody pulls together to make a good school. You know, and as I said, if we can make them think that it's, and it is, make students believe that it's important, and I think that attitude is carried forth into what we see. And I always felt, and I still believe, that the reason people move to East Brunswick is because of the school system. And the high school being the last step in that process probably gets more than its share of the spotlight, whether or not it be in the form of an award or a praise, or for that matter, the criticism. So it's, you know, it's kind of exciting. It's been a very rewarding situation. I've always approached my role in East Brunswick, whatever that role might have been across the years, as really my life. I lived at East Brunswick High School for all of those years, sometimes 10, 12 hours a day, and I mean, it wasn't, you know, that I was overburdened or overtaxed. It was, that's who I was, and that's what I enjoyed doing. And I enjoyed seeing young people be successful and feel good about themselves. And I think that's sometimes lacking, not so much in East Brunswick, but in other places. You have to make the students feel that it's important for them to learn, and that they are responsible for their learning. And I think if you're able to do that, so each one of those students, you know, and every phase of student life is important. From the yearbook on down, I remember, matter of fact, just this past fall, they were taking senior portraits, and I don't know how many ties I tied during that picture taking period, but one guy didn't have a coat, didn't have a sports jacket to put on, a suit coat. So off comes the coat, and he had his picture taken with my coat on, and it seemed to fit him fairly well, and he was delighted. But to reflect back and think of the smile on that young man's face in getting through this terrible ordeal of getting your picture taken, and hopefully we're able to make it just a little bit more pleasant for him. And so you have those kind of ongoing situations that are just tremendous, rewarding, exciting. The time I saw a gymnast come off the high bar and his hands were all ripped and raw, and the next event he went right up and did those. He just sucked it up and said, "I can do this." When you reflect back and think of all of those times when when a young man or a young lady just was able to suck up, you know, and have the grit and determination to achieve and to accomplish that goal. What else can you do? That's what I've been doing for a month or more. I've been sitting around reading and doing some things like that, but basically contemplating and thinking of all of those exciting times that we had where we were involved with an organization, the Key Club, the Rotary, or whatever, and students just stepped forward and excelled. And we have a lot of those students in East Brunswick. And it's really just been it's been a pleasure. It's been rewarding, exciting, pleasurable to be involved with them. And so many good teachers, so many great teachers, really, at East Brunswick High School over the years.
What have you missed the most since your last day of work in December?
Well, the most, the people, the students, the teachers, my secretary, Mrs. McGinnis. I have spoken to her a couple of times since then. I actually tried to stay away from the high school as much as possible. I do go to games. Matter of fact, I've seen you there at most of those, or you there at most all events. I think the people. I had such a positive experience there, and the students, when I decided that I was going to retire, they were just overwhelming. They were so nice, so kind, so considerate. I had a letter from a student, Andrew Brunston, who's the president of the Student Council presently, which is the nicest letter I've ever received in my life. And I miss being involved with those outstanding young people and that outstanding staff at the high school, and the central administration for that matter.
Well, Charlie, I'd like to thank you very much for being here with us today, and certainly on behalf of all of the students and the staff of East Brunswick, thanks for your work, your effort, and for making such a difference in so many lives, such a positive difference. I mean, personally, you've had a great deal of impact upon me. I really consider it an honor and a privilege to have had the opportunity to work with you and also to learn from you. Without a doubt, in my mind, you are the finest high school principal that I've ever been associated with. And East Brunswick stands for all the things that you believe in and the successes there that you're so responsible for. So thank you, all in capital letters. To our audience, I'd like to thank you for watching and hope you'll be back with us again next month when my guest will be Paul Cohen, who is our Supervisor of Social Studies and Media Services.